Let's talk about writing. This is the important part. When you write about narrative perspective, you should be writing about the effects that it has on the story. I believe it was Haven mentioning, or somebody mentioning, that To Kill a Mockingbird is written in a first-person perspective. From whose perspective? Scout's perspective. So we get Scout's perspective. What does that do? Well, it makes you feel like you're in the story from her point of view. Therefore, what effects might that have? Aaron?
Like, you'll probably more likely for like her feelings.
And therefore, give me some conclusions that you make in To Kill a Mockingbird because you are in her world. Like, who do you feel for? Who are you angry with? What are you feeling?
You think like Boo Radley's like a bad person in the beginning of the story?
Uh-huh.
From like her father's point of view, you would probably more likely think he is just a misunderstood old man or something.
I want to pause you folks and make sure that you paid attention to everything that Aaron just said, because Aaron is totally on to the next step with narrative perspective. First of all, she understands that you will, as a reader, adopt the prejudices, feelings, and experiences of the narrator. We adopt Scout's life. We live her life, therefore we kind of feel what she's feeling. We believe what she's believing. When Boo Radley's a figure of fear for her, he's kind of a figure of fear for us, but there's always this kind of interest that she has, therefore there's an interest in us. When she eventually develops this affection for Boo Radley, so do we. Next thing that Aaron said that was really vitally important, if you want to understand what the effect is, think about what the story would be if it were told from a different perspective. What would To Kill a Mockingbird be if it were told from Atticus's perspective? Well, yeah, it'd be a very different story and probably be much clearer, because Atticus would just be lecturing to us the entire time, right? Talking to us about what's right and what's wrong. Whereas Scout doesn't always understand what's right and what's wrong. So we have to discover along with her. What if that story were told from Bob Ewell's perspective? Now think about it for a moment. Yeah, how many grammar errors can write? That would be good. Yeah, trick question. Mr. Clarkson, he couldn't tell a story, he can't read. Many authors in the 20th century and beyond decided to take characters like Bob Ewell and tell stories from their perspective. And say, I'm going to take the most hideous, disgusting character in the story, and I'm going to make him the hero. It's called an anti-hero. But you got to think, what's the effect of perspective on a story? Could do a number of things. It could create suspense. How can it create suspense? Adopting a certain perspective creates suspense. Connor? Oh, good. You might be afraid if they're afraid. What else?
Like in To Kill a Mockingbird, in the end, you don't know what's going on with the Scout's.
Oh, nice example. Scout's in that ham costume, and she can't see outside the ham costume. You remember this from the novel? Somewhat. Okay, she's coming back from that pageant. She's in that gigantic ham of wire mesh and paper mache. She can't see anything that's going on. She can only hear. Therefore, you can't see anything that's going on. You can only hear. And the events that are going on right there are suspenseful, because the narrator doesn't know, therefore you don't know. This could create suspense. It could bias the reader for or against a character. Could create bias for or against a character. From whose perspective is Two Kinds told? Jing-Mei. Yep. Jing-Mei's perspective. So who are you biased against? Her mother. Why? Because she's feeling angry toward her mother for a while. So, let's see. Topic sentence for a paragraph. In Two Kinds, Amy Tan uses Jing-Mei's perspective to create bias in the reader against Jing-Mei's mother. There you go. That's analysis right there. You could help develop the character of the narrator. If your focus is a single character, you really want to develop that character a lot, use them as the narrator. Like Jing Mei. Amy Tan wants you to get to know this girl and know her conflict, so make her the narrator. Who do we really want to understand in Powder? Do you think? I'd say the boy. Why would I say that? Because it's his perspective. Who undergoes the significant change in Powder? Boy. Remember we discussed that. You go from that moment of not trusting Dad and feeling all uptight about it to trusting Dad. So if that's what you want to do as an author, make his perspective the perspective of the story. It can affect your personal connection to that character, or possibly even a theme. Who do you feel personally connected to in Animal Farm? Snowball? Why? Boxer? Why do you feel most personally connected with them? They seem to be the most fleshed out, right? However, that was a little bit of a trick question. The fact that I was receiving silence is not all that surprising because it's a third omniscient perspective, so Orwell intentionally doesn't connect you with anybody all that much. You listed the two characters that he probably develops the most, Snowball and Boxer. But the rest of the characters aren't all that well developed, and you don't see it from any one person's perspective. Yeah? Oh, effect with an E is usually a noun. Affect with an A is usually a verb. Pretty easy, right?